Well, hello again. Another Sunday already. Good heavens. Doesn't time fly when you're having fun? Bit overcast again today. It's raining. It's a bit windy, as you can probably tell by behind me. You know, got some low cloud and it's raining. Had quite a lot of rain and even thunderstorms this morning. It's only 4 minutes to 9 o'clock in the morning on Sunday the 3rd of August 2025. I was watching the news this morning and they were saying that it was snowing in Queensland. And they showed images of snow actually settling on the ground and people playing snowballs and cars driving around in all this snow. You know, it looked like a scene from England, apart from the type of car, of course. Predominantly four-wheel drive utes over here. But that, as far as I know, is unheard of. Settling snow in Queensland. It might have even been in... it couldn't have been in tropical Queensland, surely. So that's obviously nothing whatsoever to do with... obviously this climate change is a fiction. No such thing as climate change. Yeah, it's snowing in Queensland. Okay, so what do we have this week? I saw Lazar Elizondo being interviewed and he was doing a bit of squirming. He was asked if anyone had been arrested for revealing UFO UAP secrets. Now Elizondo replied, far worse. His life had been threatened many times. Now, of course, this is not answering the question, is it? The answer to the question, has anyone been arrested for revealing UAP UFO secrets, is obviously no. Elizondo was in the military, so I don't doubt his life has been threatened in the past. Most people who join the military are going to get their life threatened at some point, aren't they? That's what the military is all about, isn't it? Dealing with people, threatening people. So, yeah, he may very well have had his life threatened, but it's going to have nothing whatsoever to do with ET visitation, keeping ET secrets, keeping UAP secrets. That's complete and utter rubbish. You should keep an eye on these people. When they're asked questions like this, they will always deflect. They will always deflect. Oh, no, far worse. My life's been threatened, you know. He's not answering the question. Do you know of anyone that's been arrested for revealing UFO, UAP, ET secrets? Well, my life's been threatened many times. Far worse, you know. Deflection. Because he knows the answer to that question is no. Not one single person has been arrested for revealing any information about UFOs, UAPs, or extraterrestrials. As I've said before, UAP, UFO should be separated from extraterrestrials anyway, because we're only interested in extraterrestrials. UAPs, UFOs are real, I live up in the air, I see bright lights in the sky all the time. I don't know what they are. They're UFOs or UAPs as far as I'm concerned, but there's no tangible link between them and visiting extraterrestrials. So, yeah, so I've said it before, Lou Elizondo, waste of time, like the rest of these people. The rest of these characters, that's all they are really. They're all characters in a farce. Trying to make money out of this, you know, trying to put some intrigue into it, you know. Well, I can't really talk about that, you know. But aren't you a whistleblower? Didn't you leave your government job so you could tell us all about it? Well, yeah, NDA, I can't talk about that, you know. Ask AI if you think that sounds like a whistleblower. Certainly doesn't to me. Fake whistleblowers. Jumping on the bandwagon for a bit of moolah. A bit of cash. So this is pretty typical of the sort of stuff you get from, you know, these piffle peddling clowns. Can't talk about it, I'm a whistleblower. Big whistleblower stamp on his forehead. I can't talk about that. Shh. Ridiculous, isn't it? It's beyond ridiculous. It's ludicrous, isn't it? So, Eric Davis. Now, I thought this was funny. Eric Davis, another legacy piffle peddler, tells us a new first-hand witness, Mr. Banduric, is a bullshitter, along with Dan Burisch and Bob Lazar. Well, of course he is. They all are. Eric Davis was telling Luna about all these visiting species, you know, without a scrap of tangible evidence to support anything he was saying, of course. Of course, he tells us he knows this because he has been told it's true by others. This is Eric Davis. So he has no personal experience with ET technological or biological materials either. You know, FFS. It's a grifter calling another grifter a grifter. Or he's a grifter calling out 3 other grifters. This bullshit subject is really falling apart at the seams, isn't it? You know, Eric Davis. Eric Davis himself, of course, says he's got no personal experience with ET materials, technological, biological materials. He just chooses to believe what he's been told by others. Probably Hal Puthoff, who says exactly the same thing. Just look at all the people who are saying this is real. It's a self-reinforcing circuit of science fiction bullshitters. You know, he said it, so it must be true. Oh, okay, well, he said it, so it must be true. Someone else would be saying, well, I've said it, so it must be true. They've all heard other people talking about it. None of them have any first-hand experience with extraterrestrial materials, because there isn't any here. So I thought that was hilarious. Eric Davis, the grifter, calling the other grifters grifters. I had a quick look at this new chap, Mr. Banduric's claims. He gave a pretty good account of 1 or 2 effects used in the episodes of the second series of the Alien Invasion television series V. You know, little panels on the bottom of the ship. They can show any image they like. It takes the image from behind and it projects it in front. It projects it in front. That's what he was saying. You know, so that's how they cloak these alien spacecraft. You know. Of course, if it was a real alien spacecraft, it wouldn't be doing that sort of thing. What it would be doing, it would be manipulating gravity. It would act like a gravity lens. So it would just bend the light from behind it around it to make it invisible. There wouldn't be any projections projecting. So, yes, Eric Davis says Mr. Banduric is a bullshitter. I'm inclined to agree. Yeah, so this is just someone else that's been, you know, left the military. Like this other guy last week, I can't even remember his name, you know. They just jump on this ET bandwagon because they think they can make a few quid out of it. They can get on the talk circuit, you know. Maybe get on the History Channel. So I strongly suspect Mr. Banduric has got the second television series of V, The Visitors, you know, that Alien Invasion television series. He's probably got a box DVD set of that, and that's what he's been watching. So he thought, you know, I'm not in the military anymore, I've got to make a quid, what am I going to do? You know, I don't really want to go and sell real estate like David Grush, you know, I'm going to end up in a rubber room like David Grush, you know, I'll watch V, give me some inspiration, then I can come forward as yet another fake whistleblower. Yeah, complete and utter rubbish, put a line through that. Put a line through Eric Davis, Mr. Banduric, Mr. Burisch, and of course Bob Lazar, goes without saying, really. I mean, Bob Lazar, oh God, I don't know how anybody can take Bob Lazar seriously, really, to be honest with you. Very obvious fraud. You know, he tells us his university education at MIT and Caltech has been erased by Jake and Elwood. You know, the men in black, black hats, white tie, white shirt, black tie, black jacket, black pants. Jake and Elwood. They've been round to Caltech and MIT, and they've erased his education history entirely. Don't seem to have done that with Hal Puthoff, Eric Davis, Carl Nell, Tim Gallaudet. Any of these other people, does it? No visits from Jake and Elwood. So, you know, no one at either university had ever heard of him. He doesn't appear in any of the yearbooks, the photographs, you know, the yearbooks these universities in America do. Doesn't appear in any of those. Airbrushed out every single photo of him, you know. There's a group of students from the electrical engineering class or the physics class, you know. There's always a white blob halfway along the back row. That's Bob Lazar. Of course, there are individual photographs in these yearbooks. He doesn't appear in any yearbooks. He can't produce any of his claimed degree certificates. He can't say, here's my master's degree from Caltech or, you know, MIT in electrical engineering or physics. Here it is. Here's the certificate. There's a number on it. You know, you can check it out, check its authenticity out, which is precisely why he doesn't do that, of course. He hasn't got any degrees from Caltech and MIT. It's all bullshit. You know, he hasn't produced any of his coursework, you know, any of his project work that he did to earn those university qualifications. There'll be mountains of stuff like that, and he doesn't produce any of it because it doesn't exist. Because stuff like that can be checked and verified. Or in Mr. Lazar's case, I strongly suspect not verified. So, you know, Eric Davis, I suppose he had to be right about something, and he's right about these other grifters. Bob Lazar is a joke, very obvious fraud. Lazar won't sit down with a real physicist. Stanton Friedman, real physicist. E.T. bullshitter, of course, but real physicist, said that he tried to get Bob Lazar, when they were doing talks together, you know, or at the same conference, he would try and get Bob Lazar to sit down and talk physics with him, and Bob Lazar would always run away and hide under the table. He would not talk to Stanton Friedman. He wouldn't talk to any physicist. He won't go and talk to Arrow. Because it's all bullshit. You know, Bob Lazar knows it's all bullshit, and he'll be found out overnight if he starts talking to people that have the qualifications he claims. And of course, Arrow will be able to check his story out very thoroughly, and he knows they'll find it's all bullshit. They'll find out that he was a radiation detection equipment technician for Kirk Meyer, KM, which is what appears after his name in the telephone directory for Los Alamos. You know, he was a technician that calibrated and repaired radiation monitoring equipment. He was no physicist working on extraterrestrial spacecraft. It's drivel. Just like all of these stories, you know, that's exactly what they are. They're stories. So, you know, put a line through Lazar, put a line through all of these people, including Eric Davis. If you look at where Eric Davis works, you know, with Hal Puthoff in Texas, you know, it's a little tiny office in an industrial office complex. There's not going to be anything going on there. Nothing with extraterrestrial technology or biology. Nothing with exotic propulsion. You know, if you hired a private eye to go in there, to break in there and, you know, have a look around, take some photographs, you'd probably find there'd be a couple of theatrical props. You know, there'd probably be a high voltage power supply and a magnetron out of a microwave or something like that, and they'll be able to produce some plasmas and, you know, nice glow, you know, that you can photograph or video record. There'll be something like that they can just set up if anyone wants to see something that they're doing. Although it does say, if you look at the blurb for the company, personal visits are not possible. Send us your money, but we're not going to show you where it's going. That's Hal Puthoff and Eric Davis's exotic propulsion company in Texas. And there's two other Puthoffs there as well, which are probably Hal Puthoff's sons in on the grift. I've actually thought about hiring a private detective to go and have a look at that place. Maybe I will. Maybe I'll be able to show you what's inside. And it looks like people are waking up to the fact it's all bullshit. Burlison is now saying that they only want to talk to people with personal hands-on experience with ET materials. They're not interested in hearing stories from people that have heard stories, basically. And it looks like Jake Barber's funding has been withdrawn or has dried up. Most likely because the people that are providing any money for this have looked at what he's producing. Videos of flocks of birds, ridiculous claims about psionically summoning alien spacecraft. It's just too ludicrous for words. And the people providing the money, I think, have realised this. There's no way they're going to be able to produce an alien spacecraft within 12 months. That would require them to actually be able to do what they're claiming. Psionically summon an alien spacecraft to land just there. 3 metres away, just a safe distance, So you can approach it. So you can film the aliens, film the craft, get some technological samples that could be verified by reputable universities as being extraterrestrial. None of that is happening. And the people that are putting the money in the pot have realised it's all bullshit. It's all theatre. Getting people to fly drones around in the distance. These summoned spacecraft always appear in the distance as little bright dots, because that's other members of his team flying drones around. It's just like Greer's nonsense, Spacecraft are going from the cloud base slowly down to the ground. They're not flares that have been chucked out the window of a Cessna. Oh, right. They're alien spacecraft. And people are waking up to the fact that this is all bullshit. So it looks like Skywatcher. The money for Skywatcher has dried up, even though they tried to sort of bolster it a bit by getting Garry Nolan involved. They probably thought we can fool this guy. He reckons he's seen aliens in his bedroom. We'll invite him along and he'll back up our story. He'll say, "Oh yeah, I saw a little bright light in the distance. It must have been this guy. This guy's trying to hold hands with me in this deck chair, sitting down here in this deck chair. He must be psionically summoning them." There must be squadrons of alien spacecraft, across the galaxy, and they're just sitting in orbit directly above where the Skywatcher psionic summoners are, just waiting in a queue to be summoned psionically. I mean, this would insult the intelligence of a cheese and pickle sandwich, wouldn't it, really? No surprise that the funding for Skywatcher has dried up. And it's rumoured that Skywatcher is dead. Jake Barber says, no, they're still doing stuff. But it's beginning to look a lot like it is dead. The money's dried up. People have realised it's just a show. It's theatre for the gullible. And they've said, okay, no more money for you, Mr. Barber. So, Burlison and co. looking for people with real experience and real tangible evidence aren't going to be interested in Barber. They've actually said, the Congress is ignoring Barber and Skywatcher, as they should. It's just drivel. I think as soon as the people putting money in found out that that's the case, they realised that there really is nothing to this, and they've said, yeah, okay, well, good luck, mate. If you find ET, let me know. Let me know how you get on with that. His ridiculous electromagnetic dog whistle is, I've said before, it's kept secret because if we found out exactly what it was, we would fall about laughing. People would duplicate it and find that they couldn't summon extraterrestrial spacecraft with it. It would fail at the first hurdle. If you applied a scientific method, can you duplicate it? No. So forget about Skywatcher, Barber and his electromagnetic dog whistle and his psionics. No such thing as telekinesis, no such thing as telepathy, no such thing as remote viewing. It's all bullshit. So yeah, I think I don't think Skywatcher, in my book, Skywatcher never had any credibility, but I think they may have had some among some of the gullible people that love all this stuff and lap it up and just want it to be true. Goodness knows why. I think that's evaporated. Even the gullible fanboys have lost interest in Skywatcher. They think they've got zero credibility. What they're claiming would insult the intelligence of a cheese and pickle sandwich. I mean, I've said that before, and it's true, isn't it? It's just rubbish. Now, Michael Herrera, I saw him being interviewed by Ross Coulthart. And it looks like he's walking away. You know, he's had enough. He's realised that his fake whistleblower story is not going to go anywhere. I mean, he might still get some interest from Coulthart, but Coulthart's a dyed-in-the-wool fanboy, book to sell. But what Herrera's saying is that you know, he's going to walk away from it. It's made his life a misery. He's not making any money out of it, which I think is the main reason he's walking away from it. He's not going to get interviewed by Congress because he's just telling a story. His NCO or his senior officer who was there at the time said it's all bullshit, none of it was real. So Herrera has realised he's not going anywhere with this. He's banging his head against a brick wall. No one's taking him seriously. He's not going to make money out of it. He's not going to be appearing in front of Congress. He's not going to be famous. He's had enough. So he's probably going to be selling real estate. Yeah, his story is just another fanciful yarn. Could have come out of any science fiction film, really, or the X-Files, maybe. But it's what it isn't is a true and accurate account of a real event. Without tangible evidence, it's just too fanciful a yarn to even consider it could be true. So, yeah. Put a line through Herrera. I said it a long time ago. It's just another fake whistleblower. There's just so many of them out there, and this is why I said in the last video, you know, the worst thing that Burlison and Co, Burlison, Luna and Co could possibly do is get Arrow out of the picture, because as soon as they got Arrow out of the picture, they will be inundated by fake whistleblowers telling stories like Herrera's, you know, and like what was that guy's name? That the latest one that Eric Davis says is a grifter. You know, they'll just come out of the woodwork. There are termites there and be everywhere. So it's absolutely essential that Arrow remains involved in anything that Burlison, Luna and Co look at. You know, if someone comes in with one of these wild claims, get Arrow to investigate it and verify it or not before anyone's time and money is wasted on that particular whistleblower. Yeah. Now, Jeremy Corbell, Crass Corbell with the big safe over his shoulder, big safe where cash is making out of the gullible people that lap up with this science fiction rubbish. He's got so much money he has to keep it in a massive safe that he likes to show everybody over his right-hand shoulder. He was saying there was two addresses. He gave us two addresses where he said that recovered extraterrestrial material was being reverse engineered. Now, one of them was Northrop Grumman, and the other one was, and he gave the address, and the other one was Lockheed Martin. And he said that Lockheed Martin are reverse engineering recovered alien spacecraft, alien technology at 2300 Empire Avenue, Burbank, California. Lockheed Martin, 2300 Empire Avenue, Burbank, California. Now, if you look at this on Google Earth, it's actually Netflix. It's So if you look through the window, you might see some people filming a science fiction television series, maybe. But it's not Lockheed Martin. Now, if Jeremy Corbell repeats this stuff as truth, you know, Northrop Grumman is here, Lockheed Martin are here, and they're reverse engineering this recovered alien technology, and he can't even be bothered to have a look at those addresses with Google Earth, what does that say about any research that Jeremy Corbell might do? It tells us he does zero research, doesn't it? It tells us that someone will come along with him and with a video of some balloons, you know, IED balloons or whatever they were, you know, going across in front of a spy drone, and he'll say, "Here's an alien spacecraft. It's, you know, it's a UAP." You know, without doing any kind of research at all. I think that's what's going on with Jeremy Corbell. Sees a quid in it, jumps on it, milks it, turns out to be fake. Oh, well, you know, sorry, I presented it in good faith. He's already got the cash in that huge safe that he's made out of telling you all that bullshit. That's how this whole thing works. So, you know, I've said it before, put a line through Corbell, put a line through all of these guys, you know, it's all drivel, it's rubbish. You know, I saw, yeah, I saw, I think it was Ross Coulthart saying that Donald Trump's life had been threatened. Well, that's probably true, but it's got nothing to do with revealing extraterrestrial secrets, is it? You know, it's, I mean, people have tried to kill him twice before. Pardon me. But he's, lives being threatened to keep all this stuff quiet is complete utter rubbish. You can bet your bottom dollar Donald Trump hasn't had a visit from Jake and Elwood. No one said to him behind the scenes, it's all true, really it's true, Mr. President, you know. Because Trump would jump on that bandwagon. He would be the disclosure president, go down in history, you know. He doesn't do that because there's nothing to disclose. No one's being threatened. There always has to be a reason why this information can't be given to you. I can't tell you that, you know, I'll be killed. Oh, really? Yeah. You've been to Mars, though? Yeah. Oh, yeah. Fighting aliens on Mars. Oh, dear. I don't know. So, you know, and as I said before, Trump would reveal now because, you know, he doesn't want people looking at the Epstein files. You know, he wants a decent distraction. He can't disclose E.T. is coming here because E.T. is not coming here. There's nothing to disclose. So now, to take attention away from the Epstein files, he's going to start a nuclear war with Russia. Or at least do a bit of sabre rattling that will take the press attention away from what Ghislaine Maxwell might say. I'm surprised she hasn't fallen out of a window or been found having committed suicide. It's probably next Wednesday afternoon. It's probably slated. I suppose, of course, you could back Trump up and say, well, Trump was never there, I never saw Trump, blah, 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 in exchange for a full pardon, because Ghislaine Maxwell is not going to be very comfortable in prison. Even this new low security prison that she's just been moved to. Actually, that could be another thing too, because she's been moved to a lower security prison, it'll be much easier for other inmates to get at her and polish her off. Maybe that's what's going on. But certainly a huge fall. Many years ago, I actually did some work on the super yacht Lady Ghislaine that was named after her. It was owned by Robert Maxwell, who was a media tycoon, if memory serves, and a very nice boat, Lady Ghislaine. I think it was a 55-metre super yacht. Used to live in south of France most of the time, on Tibes. But yeah, so she would be living on that, living the high life with Jeffrey Epstein, and now, of course, living in a box with a little tiny postage stamp TV, probably. Yeah, so she's got plenty of incentive, plenty of motivation to try anything she can to get out of there. Anyway, that's an aside. That's not stuff I usually do. It's I'm not really interested in these people, Trump or Maxwell. Nice boat though. Forget about Trump being threatened. That if he discloses this stuff, he'll be killed. Trump would say, "Yeah, who by? CIA, go and kill these guys, will you?" That's all that would happen there. So there's nothing to disclose. J.D. Vance apparently is a bit of an enthusiast with regard to all this stuff. He won't find anything to disclose either, and it will dawn on him, assuming he's got an IQ bigger than his shoe size, before too long, that there is nothing to this ET coming here, crashing here nonsense. There's nothing to disclose. It's all science fiction rubbish. Okay, now, actually there's a bit on the bottom of this page. Our planetary defence system is continually looking for threats to the Earth from asteroids and comets. They detected Oumuamua with pan-stars, and this latest thing was detected by another part of this global defence network. They're always looking for anything that's travelling through space that might come here and threaten the Earth. Is this asteroid going to hit the planet? Is this comet going to hit the planet? All this sort of stuff. They're doing this all the time. And so far they've detected 3 interstellar objects. 3 objects coming from outside of this solar system. Coming through our solar system. Only 3. That's all they've detected. So the first one was Oumuamua, which was suggested might have been an alien probe by maybe Loeb. Everybody else in the professional astronomy and astrophysics world says it's just a rock. We did look at it though. Apparently we looked at it with all kinds of sensors, ping radar off it. You can probably hear it starting to. Ooh, crikey! I can only see about 200 metres out of the window now. Starting to rain. Hopefully you can hear me. So the first was Oumuamua. We looked at it and no emissions from it, completely passive. It was a rock. As I said before, Loeb suggested it might be a wafer-thin solar sail, but its motion was tumbling. It was tumbling towards the sun. Personally, I don't think you could get a wafer-thin solar sail to tumble towards the sun against a solar wind. And I think that opinion is probably shared by most of the people that are professionally involved in this stuff. The second, 2i Borisov, was a comet, I think. And the latest, 3i Atlas. Loeb is suggesting we should consider 3i Atlas may be an alien spacecraft. He said the same thing about Oumuamua. Now, none of these objects have been kept a secret, have they? These 3 objects that have entered our solar system, they're interstellar objects, they've been detected by the planetary defence system. Not one of them has been kept a secret. They're all over the news, they're all over the internet. You've got all the lunatics saying, "Oh, it's a spacecraft, it's a spacecraft," it's right up to the point where it goes past and flies away. It's not a spacecraft. But the point is, they're not kept secret. So if this planetary defence system detected an alien spacecraft, it would be on the news, coming into the solar system. It wouldn't be kept secret. Because they'd say, well, we've detected this thing, we don't know what it is. It might be an alien spacecraft. You won't know until it gets closer. When it gets closer, oh yeah, it is an alien spacecraft. But, no one's threatened to kill Loeb. There's probably a lot of professional astrophysicists and astronomers that it's crossed their mind. No one is telling Loeb to shut up. This planetary threat detection system hasn't detected one alien spacecraft coming into our solar system from any of these stories that these fake whistleblowers tell. You know, I mean, this planetary defence system should be able to detect hundreds of extraterrestrial spacecraft coming into our solar system for anything Skywatcher says to be true. You know, anything any of these people say, for any of that to be true, the planetary defence system would have detected them coming into our solar system. But they haven't. The ones that they have detected, the objects they have detected, they've told us about. You know, Oumuamua, two-eye Borisov, three-eye Atlas. It's all over the internet, it's all over every television station. They're not detecting any of the claimed ET spacecraft. Any of the spacecraft claimed to be visiting this planet by the piffle peddlers. They haven't seen any of them, not one. So, you know, it's pretty safe to say it's all bullshit, isn't it? I mean, why would they keep, why is it all super secret? People's lives are getting threatened and all that. I can't tell you about it. I know all about it. I can't tell you about it. They're going to shoot me. They're going to kill me. They're going to run my car off a cliff, you know. In the real world, it's all over the news. We've spotted an interstellar object. It's heading this way. It might be an alien spacecraft. See the difference? All this ETs coming here, crashing here stuff has to be kept super secret. None of it can leak out because none of it's real. It's not possible for any of it to leak out because none of it is real. You know. Give us your money, we'll push for disclosure. You'll be doing it for the rest of your life because there's nothing to disclose. Because there's nothing to disclose, you can push for disclosure forever until ET finally does turn up, if they turn up. So, so why do you think that, you know, the planetary defence system hasn't detected one alien spacecraft? I'm sure they would tell us if they detected something they thought might be an alien spacecraft. Not one has been detected that would support one single science fiction piffle peddler story. Not one. You know, and if they looked immediately above where Jake Barber's crew were sitting in their lawn chairs out in the desert, they'd see loads of them, wouldn't they? And they'd be able to track them from where they came into the solar system all the way to that point where they parked themselves directly above the planet, waiting in a queue to be summoned by Jake Barber and his team. Does that sound ludicrous to you? It certainly does to me. It's drivel, isn't it? All of it. Same with Stephen Greer's rubbish, you know. He's not CE5, he's not summoning alien spacecraft, you know. It's complete and utter drivel. You know, the planetary defence system doesn't say, well, you know, Stephen Greer and Skywatcher are summoning these alien spacecrafts all the time. You know, we can track them as they enter the solar system all the way to the Earth where they park themselves in orbit directly above these two groups. They're in different positions on the planet and they're just waiting there and they're discussing between themselves who's going to be summoned by whom, you know. And going, oh, yeah, is it your turn this time to be summoned by Greer or mine? Or are you going to Barber? Can you imagine? I mean, it would insult the intelligence of a cheese and pickle sandwich, wouldn't it? Yeah, so Oumuamua wasn't very big. You know, they can detect small objects as well as huge objects. This planetary defence system. You know, I mean, some of the objects they detect are very small indeed. I think are smaller than cars, aren't they? So, or even smaller than that. So, yeah, they're not detecting alien spacecraft coming into the solar system. Yeah, it's just drivel. So no one's lives are being threatened. Elizondo's life may have been threatened, but it's got nothing to do with extraterrestrials. Trump's life, well, yes, I can understand people threatening that. Nothing whatsoever to do with extraterrestrials. So, yeah, fake whistleblowers, it's all bullshit. People are finally waking up to that. Burlison and co are waking up to that. They're ignoring these clowns. I wouldn't be at all surprised if this congressional hearing that's been bumped to September gets cancelled. There's probably not going to be anything for them to listen to. If they say they're only looking for people with actual evidence, they're going to get their stories investigated by Arrow. There's no one's going to be able to present any tangible evidence of ET coming here. Their stories are not going to pan out. Personally, I think the hearing will not go ahead. Burlison will just be told that there's nothing to any of this, and they'll say, well, okay, well, we won't waste any more time on it. New business. And that'll be that. So, just getting back to Avi Loeb. Now, the scientific community seems to be getting a little bit peeved with Avi Loeb. They're saying that now he's a grifter and he's coming up with these fanciful tales to sell books. And he was a real scientist until around 2010, but since then he's gone a bit squirrely. And he's coming up with fantastic claims in order to get appearances, interviews on YouTube and TV shows and sell books and all that sort of stuff. But as far as I can tell, Avi Loeb is only saying we should look. He's not saying, 3i Atlas is an alien spacecraft. He's saying that it has some unusual properties and we should consider that it may be. Most of the professional astronomical astrophysics community are now getting a bit hostile towards Avi Loeb. He's probably got another book out. So, getting money for his Galileo project, well, it doesn't look like he's getting an awful lot of it. What he's producing doesn't look like a grift. I mean, it's not going to get anywhere. It's not sophisticated enough to do anything real. He's playing around with it, but then he says he knows it's only going to detect low-hanging fruit. So he sort of covered himself with that statement. So anyway, Avi Loeb says we should consider that 3i Atlas may be an alien spacecraft that will be here in October this year. Now, he sort of contradicts that because he also says NASA could repurpose the Juno Jupiter probe, because they were going to, the mission for Juno is finished, it's in orbit around Jupiter. They were going to just crash the Juno probe into Jupiter. And what Avi Loeb is saying is, why not just repurpose it and move it to where it can intercept 3i Atlas so we can get some good images of it? Which makes sense, I think. But he's also saying that it will pass close to Jupiter in 2026, which means he's not really expecting it to break behind the sun, turn and come towards Earth in October 2025. He's expecting it to keep going behind the sun and go out of the solar system in the opposite direction, and it will go past Jupiter on its way out in 2026. And Avi Loeb has said that. So that's what Avi Loeb is expecting. On its way out, get NASA to repurpose Juno to take a look at it, basically. So that tells us that Avi Loeb doesn't really think it's coming here. But he's just saying, well, what if it was an alien spacecraft? What would we do? We should have a look at it, see if it's an alien probe. But the fact that he's suggesting that NASA repurposed Juno to have a look at it in 2026 tells us that he knows it's not going to break behind the sun and head towards us. It's going to keep on going and it will leave the solar system. and go past Jupiter on its way out. So, well, it's quite a lot of notes this week, isn't it? I don't think there'll be much to report this week. So, if I said this before, but if 3i Atlas does turn out to be an alien probe, I don't think it will, but if it does turn out to be an alien probe, we are screwed, because, you know, if Oumuamua was sent by the same species, as just to have a bit of a sniff around, they will know we can't physically intercept it. They will know what sort of radars and everything is going to be bombarded with. There's going to be no surprises for them when they turn up. And if it does break around the back of the sun, come round towards the Earth, because we're going around the sun in the opposite direction. So if it comes in to meet the Earth, basically, splits into lots of little objects, then spray all this stuff into the atmosphere and kill everybody, every living person on Earth, and everything they don't want would die. Very much like the plot of the movie Moonraker. You know, Drax with his space station, he was shooting out these glass orbs, and it was going to kill all of the people, but it would keep all the other life just as it unaffected. So maybe, could it be something? Maybe it's something like that, you know. And of course, the species send Oumuamua as the original, as the probe, just to see if we could intercept it. We can't intercept it, so the other thing's following up with a bioweapon. Then all they need to do is follow up, say 4 or 5 years later, after the probes, you know, dispersed the stuff into the atmosphere and killed everybody. They turn up a few years later, and they wouldn't have any nasty biological substances to deal with. You know, nature would have taken its course. All they would need to do is sweep up all the bones and move in. You know, there's not going to be any nasty dead bodies to deal with. All that would have been, all that would have gone after a few years. So, that might be the way it's done. You know, because obviously you'd be working on timescales of many years if you were going to do this sort of thing. So send a probe, see if it can be intercepted. If it can't be intercepted, send the bioweapon. Bioweapon works. I'll probably send another probe around just to make sure it's worked. And then then the big colony ship would turn up, and they would populate the planet, get the broom out, sweep all the bones up, you know, hose the pavement down, whatever. If they're physiologically similar, our structures could be useful to them. You know, they could live in the houses maybe. That would make a pretty good science fiction movie plot, wouldn't it? Maybe I'll write that one up. So, you know, maybe it is something like that. Maybe that's how it's done. It's a 3-stage process. You know, and we're about to meet phase 2. Pardon me. I think it's science fiction is where this scenario belongs. I don't think it's an alien spacecraft. I think it's coming here. I think the fact that Loeb says, you know, NASA could repurpose Juno to look at it on its way out of the solar system tells us that Loeb doesn't think it's an alien spacecraft either. All he's saying is maybe we should consider that it could be and take a look at it accordingly. I don't really see anything wrong with that. But you know, the rest of the professional astronomy and astrophysics community is absolutely certain it's a rock, and they think Loeb has turned into a grifter. Of course, you know, if I'm wrong and it turns out that it is an alien probe and it's coming here to kill us all, At least there won't be anyone around to say, "Told you so," mumbling. Because we'll all be decaying away on the being devoured by bugs and predators. Or if the power's going to go off. It's a little bit windy out there, you might be able to hear it. Yeah, so if you are worried, take your holiday before the end of October, but I think we're pretty safe, to be honest. And what else do we have? Yes. Yes, blimey. Done that bit there. See about the burns and move in, we've done that bit. Structures may be useful if they have similar physiology, yes, we've done that bit. You can bet your bottom dollar though, if it does turn out to be an alien spacecraft, as I've said in a previous video, they're not going to come here just to say hello. There would be absolutely nothing in it for them to come and say hello to us. They could learn nothing from us. If they can cross the galaxy, we are going to be able to teach them nothing technologically. They're not going to give us a technological leg up. They're not going to tell us. They're not going to tell us how to manipulate gravity. They're not going to tell us how to fly around the galaxy. You know, as I've said before, they'd have to be the dumbest aliens in the galaxy, if not the universe, if they did that. So if it's aliens and they're coming here, it would be better if they didn't, I suspect. Better for us. Considerably better for us if they didn't. They're not going to come here just to say hello. They're not going to come all this way across the galaxy just to say hello to us, you know. To stand around Garry Nolan's bed, you know, and just look at it, because he's such a fascinating example of humanity. They're going to cross the galaxy and they're going to float through his bedroom walls, and they're going to stand around his bed and they're just going to watch him for weeks on end. You know. I think it's highly unlikely. I mean, I can't watch Garry Nolan for more than 2 minutes. I have to hit the button, get rid of him. God, drivel. So how aliens could stand around his bed for weeks on end is beyond me, quite frankly. Yeah, so no advantage whatsoever to any ET species coming here. The only advantage will be to them. The only advantage they could get from us is, anybody here at the back, Jenkins? The planet itself. And of course they're not going to want us here, are they? So yeah. Anyway, don't worry about it. It's just a rock. It'll keep going behind the sun. It'll just go through the solar system. Now, the dark forest hypothesis. What is the dark forest hypothesis? Now, they're saying that it could be that there are alien species out there, technologically advanced alien species, but they're all keeping quiet because they know they suspect there's predators out there. So the dark forest hypothesis is, imagine you are in a dark forest, okay? Now, you're not going to advertise your presence. You're not going to walk around snapping twigs, because you don't know if there's a lion or there's a bear or anything else in this forest there's any predators there that will devour you. That's the dark forest hypothesis. So the alien species are keeping quiet because they don't want to be noticed in case there's any predators out there. Now, I don't think that's terribly likely. I don't think that's terribly likely because these are in the wrong order. Yeah, okay, here we are. So I don't think it's terribly likely because it would be very difficult to mask a technological species on a planetary scale. Any technological species that's at least as advanced as us would have had an industrial revolution and a technological revolution. And the industrial revolution, of course, can you hear that? That's thunder. Unless the alien probe's got it already. The light will probably go off in a minute. It's the power of dial. So they would have gone through an industrial revolution. They probably would have discovered steam engines and electrical power and all this sort of stuff, generating electrical power. And all this is going to put pollution into the atmosphere. And the spectral analysis is getting pretty good. Any advanced alien species that's more advanced than us is going to be able to look at the light spectrum, the spectral analysis of any planet's atmosphere, and it will give away if there's life there, if there's technology there, if there are synthetic chemicals in the atmosphere. They're going to know technology is going on there, industry is going on there, and I think it'd be very difficult to hide that from anybody. They don't have to be squirted out radio signals, but they would have gone through a phase probably where, same as us, you start using high power, start high power space radars, mapping planets with radar and all that sort of stuff. That's going to go a long way. So that has the potential to be detected by other intelligent, technologically advanced alien species. So, it's far too late for us to mask the Earth, for example, because we've been putting radio signals out for 100 years, high-power space radars, space communications, all those kinds of crap in the atmosphere that would be detectable by other technologically advanced species. So I don't think the dark forest hypothesis holds water, to be perfectly honest. I don't think it would be possible to mask an industrial or a technological civilization on a planetary scale. I think it would be detectable. Now, of course, distance comes into play here, so excuse me. So if you had where it's more likely there are going to be technologically advanced species. Maybe closer to the centre of the galaxy. I keep saying I shouldn't do these early in the morning. I get gurgly in the mornings. Because I've been talking for half an hour or so. If I'm talking to people, it doesn't really matter. Because I'm not continually talking, if you know what I mean. Anyway, where was I? So, in towards the centre of the galaxy, the stars are far more bunched up. They might only be a light week apart, some of the closest stars. There might be technological civilizations that have sprung up on these on planets around these stars, but they're 25,000. They could be 25,800 light years away. That's where the centre of the galaxy is. It's 25,800 light years away. And it may be that there is communication between planets in different star systems when the stars are so close together. And they could have started doing this 20,000 years ago. But we won't find out about it for another 5,800 years because they're so far away. So they could be far more in advance of us. They could be 20,000 years in advance of us. But we won't be able to detect any signatures of that technology for another 5,800 years. It's just I don't think it's a dark forest type situation, to be perfectly honest. I think they would be detectable. I don't think you could hide that on a planetary scale. I think it's a case that there's probably technologically advanced species out there. There might be some that are considerably older than ours, but they're just so far away we just haven't been able to detect them. And the light from them, the spectrum of light coming from them is not revealing anything, because the light that's hitting us now is left there 25,800 years ago. Just like any radio signals left there 25,800 years ago. And I'm sure they're out there, but we won't be able to detect them for some time, I suspect. Quite some time. So I don't think the dark forest is likely. I think it's more likely that they're just out there. They've made the same mistakes as us. They've polluted their atmospheres. They put high power radio signals out into the galaxy, but they're just so far away they haven't reached us yet. It's as simple as that. The light and the radio waves I'm talking about, not the aliens. Crossing 25,800 light years of galaxy. Good luck with that. Unless you're Captain Kirk, of course. Now, Coulthart, I think, may have watched my last video. He hasn't named any of the senators that know all about the crashed, recovered alien spacecraft and the reverse engineering programs, the legacy reverse engineering programs. These senators know all about it, according to Coulthart, you know, and he's going to name them if they don't fess up. And of course, he's probably seen my last video and went, "Oh, crikey, you know, mumbling's right." I mean, if I say these guys know all about it, and they really know nothing about it, they're going to know I'm a bullshit, and they're going to know I'm full of it. Ooh, better keep quiet. And that's what he seems to be doing. Seems to have reverted back to interviewing science fiction piffle peddlers. He stepped away from naming the senators. All the representatives that know all about this. Yeah, so, yeah. It must have dawned on him that as soon as he does that, he's finished. You know, anyone that thought that he may have had some credibility with regard to this subject will know for sure and certain that he's not. He's got zero credibility. He knows nothing whatsoever about it. You know, imagine, you know, I'm a senator. You know, Ross Coulthart's on every television channel. He's got News Nation. Steve Mumbling knows all about the legacy reverse engineering program. You know, I know, as fact. You know, I've been told. And I'm going to go. Okay, safely put a line through Mr. Coulthart. Complete and utter drivel. So. As I've said before, personally, I think Coulthart has zero credibility. He talks about this stuff as though he knows it to be true. And then in another breath, he says, of course, I'm only repeating what I've been told. Just like all of the others. Just like Eric Davis. Just like all of these clowns. So he's gone back to his core business. Ross Coulthart interviewing fake whistleblowers. Much safer ground. Still keeps his face on News Nation, on the other YouTube channels. Gets him keynote speaker fees. Sells a few books. Yeah. Anyway, I think that's about it. I strongly suspect that the September congressional hearing on all this nonsense will be cancelled. I don't think they're going to find any credible witnesses that can provide any tangible evidence to support what they're saying. I think anyone that tells it any yarns to Arrow will investigate it and find that it's science fiction rubbish, just like they did last time. Being perpetuated by a core of science fiction piffle peddlers. And that's all it is. All right, well, that's it. As always, if you've struggled through the video all the way to this point, many thanks for watching. And maybe I'll catch you again.